He just wanted a quiet dinner to celebrate his birthday with the people he loved the most. But a malicious joke, untimely laughter, and an apparently harmless gesture changed everything. When his wife left silently, with tears in her eyes, he was forced to make a decision that would test everything he believed about love, family, and loyalty. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. The autumn sky displayed an orange hue when Christopher Dawson decided to take a break between legal consultations. His next client was running late, and the young 32-year-old lawyer chose to seize this unusual gap in his always busy schedule. The municipal park was just 2 blocks from his office, and a craft fair had been set up there that week. Christopher had never been one to frequent fairs. His life followed a predictable script: office, gym, formal dinners with the family, and calculated social events that could benefit his career. The son of Caroline and Richard Dawson had followed in his father's footsteps in law, just like his sister Vivian, 2 years older, who had specialized in tax law. The Dawson family was respected, traditional, and impeccably discreet. As he walked among the colourful stalls, Christopher felt like a stranger in that environment. People laughed loudly, children ran around, and the informality of the place contrasted with the perfectly adjusted tie around his neck. That was when his eyes caught a glimpse of vibrant colours. Among the various stalls, one stood out for its profusion of handmade necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. But what really caught his attention was the figure behind the table, a woman with brown hair streaked with purple and blue, wearing a linen jumpsuit with hand-painted designs and a smile that seemed to light up the entire park. "Can I help you find something special?" she asked, noticing Christopher examining the pieces. "I'm just looking," he replied, trying to disguise his interest more in the seller than in the merchandise. "Looking for a gift for someone? Girlfriend? Wife?" she asked, her smile growing as she organized some necklaces. "In fact, no, I'm actually single," replied Christopher, feeling his cheeks warm as he realized the transparency of his intention. Trying to regain his composure, he cleared his throat. "But maybe something for my mother. Her birthday is coming up soon." "Oh, that's sweet. I have a few pieces that usually please mothers," she replied, moving around the table and selecting some necklaces. "By the way, I'm Sunny. All these pieces are my creations." "Christopher Dawson," he introduced himself, extending his hand formally, which made Sunny smile even more. "You seem very formal for a fair in the park, Christopher," she joked, pointing to his suit. "Tough day at the office." Something about the way she spoke, unpretentious, genuine, different from the calculating people he was used to, made Christopher relax. He chose a necklace of colourful stones intertwined with small wooden details. While Sunny wrapped the gift, Christopher checked his watch. "I need to get back to a meeting, but can I get your number? Just in case I'm interested in other pieces, of course." "Of course," she replied with a mischievous smile, handing him a colourful handmade card. "That's my number and my Instagram where I showcase my work." After a day of meetings that evening, Christopher drove to his parents' mansion for the weekly family dinner. He remembered the necklace in the glove compartment, the perfect excuse to get in touch with Sunny again. "Mum, I brought something for you," he said, handing the colourful package to Caroline Dawson, a woman of rigid posture and impeccably arranged grey hair. Caroline unwrapped the gift with delicate fingers, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock. "What is this, my son? Where did you get this piece? It's like you don't know me. Where would I wear something so, well, exotic?" Laughter echoed through the dining room as his father and sister observed the colourful necklace that seemed completely out of place in that house with neutral tones and heavy-coloured antique furniture. "It was just a thought," muttered Christopher, feeling a twinge of shame that quickly turned into irritation. Why did his family have to be so predictable? So monochromatic? That same night, lying in his bed in the silent and organised apartment, Christopher found himself looking at Sunny's colourful card. Impulsively, he sent a message. I guess my mother wasn't ready for your artistic creations. I'd like to know more about your work. Maybe a coffee? Christopher, the guy in the suit at the park. To his surprise, Sonny replied almost immediately, "Don't worry, my art isn't for everyone. Coffee tomorrow at 2 p.m. I know a place where even lawyers in suits feel at ease." The coffee turned into a walk through the arts district. The walk became a dinner. The dinner turned into a weekend exploring a small coastal town. And before Christopher realized it, he was eagerly checking his phone every day, waiting for messages from Sunny, filled with emojis and photos of her new creations. Sunny Morrison was everything Christopher didn't know he needed. She had grown up with artist parents who travelled around the country selling their works, attended an art school, and then decided to live for her passion, creating unique pieces that told stories. Her small apartment was a colourful studio, with walls full of paintings, shelves overflowing with stones, beads and tools, and plants hanging in every possible corner. "My father says life is too short for monochrome," she told Christopher one night, while working on a new piece. "He taught me to see beauty in chaos, to find value in what others discard." Christopher began to realise how his own life had been programmed from an early age. Prestigious law school, internships at major firms, a meticulously planned career. There was no room for improvisation or discovery. With Sunny, he rediscovered the joy of unplanned moments, impromptu picnics on workdays, driving aimlessly on a Sunday afternoon, sitting on the porch watching the rain with a cup of tea made from herbs picked from her small garden. When Christopher finally gathered the courage to introduce Sunny to his family, the reaction was exactly as he feared. "She is interesting," his mother commented after dinner, her tone clearly indicating that interesting was not a compliment. "Isn't she a bit too eccentric for you?" questioned Vivian, his sister, not bothering to lower her voice even with Sunny just a few meters away helping to serve dessert. "She is authentic," Christopher replied, feeling a wave of protectiveness. "And she makes me happy. Very happy." Despite his family's veiled disapproval, Christopher and Sunny continued their relationship. He found that the office felt less stifling when he had stories of Sunny to recall during tedious meetings. She, in turn, included little details in her creations, inspired by things he said or did. In a year and a half of dating, Christopher surprised everyone, especially his family, by proposing to Sunny during an outdoor art festival, where she was exhibiting her pieces. The wedding, much to the Dawson family's dismay, was held in the backyard of a country house that belonged to Sunny's friends. There were no tuxedos or traditional dresses. Christopher wore a navy blue suit with a tie hand-painted by Sunny, and she wore a simple dress she had embroidered with small colourful beads. The tables were decorated with wildflowers and glass jars with floating candles. "This is so informal," murmured Caroline to her husband during the ceremony. "Christopher has always been the most rebellious of us," replied Richard with a resigned sigh. After the wedding, the couple bought a modest house on the outskirts of the city. Christopher continued his legal career, but now also worked with artists and small entrepreneurs, helping them with legal matters at affordable rates. Sunny set up her studio in a sunny room of the house and began teaching art classes to children on Saturdays. Their house was a curious mix. Christopher's organised office contrasted with Sunny's colourful studio, but somehow it worked. Like them. One of Sunny's creations, a ceramic sculpture depicting two intertwined birds, held a prominent place in Christopher's office. When Vivian visited the place for the first time, her horror was evident. "Do you really keep that here? What if an important client shows up?" "My clients love it," Christopher replied simply. "They say it makes the environment less intimidating." As Christopher's 35th birthday approached, Sunny began planning a special celebration. She envisioned a backyard barbecue, with friends gathered around a large table under the old oak tree. She would make the decorations herself, colourful flower garlands, bunting, and a string of lights that would stretch across the garden. The cake would be her own creation, something unique to celebrate the man who had brought so much balance into her life. I was thinking about inviting your family too, Sunny remarked one evening while working on a new project in her studio. I know we're not close, but it's your birthday. Christopher hesitated. Actually, my mother already mentioned something about a dinner at the mansion. Sunny's face fell slightly. The mansion was the most exclusive and formal restaurant in the city, completely different from the cozy atmosphere she had imagined. Oh, I see. Well, we can do something simple here before or after, she suggested, trying to hide her disappointment. I would prefer to celebrate your way, confessed Christopher. But my mother has already made reservations and invited some important colleagues from the office. You know how she is. Sunny nodded, swallowing her frustration. She didn't want to create tension between Christopher and his family. There was already enough without her interference. Of course, love. Let's go to the dinner. In the days leading up to the birthday, Sunny decided to prepare a special gift for Christopher. Despite her talent with jewelry and ceramics, she had recently learned to knit and decided to make a sweater for her husband. It wouldn't be just any sweater, of course. She chose coloured wool yarns, creating a pattern that represented the special places they had visited together. On the night of the dinner, Christopher's family and some of his work colleagues gathered at the elegant restaurant The Mansion. The environment was exactly as expected. Soft lighting, white linen tablecloths, crystal glasses, and silent waiters moving discreetly between the tables. Christopher and Sunny arrived together. He wore a traditional dark suit, but had chosen a vibrant blue tie that Sunny had given him as a Christmas gift. Sunny was wearing a floral dress that she had bought especially for the occasion. It wasn't as formal as the outfits of the other women present, but it was the most modest she could find. A green bow adorned her hair, which now had pink highlights. As they walked through the restaurant towards the reserved area, Sunny noticed the glances from other patrons. Some seemed curious, others clearly disapproving. Christopher, however, held her hand firmly, proud of his wife and indifferent to the judgment of others. "Happy birthday, dear," Caroline exclaimed, offering Christopher a kiss in the air near his cheek. For Sunny, just a nod. "We are all at the table in the back." Sunny immediately noticed the arrangement of the seats. Christopher, as the birthday celebrant, had the place of honour at the head of the table. But her own seat was practically at the opposite end, next to the children who had been brought along and were, bored, messing with their cell phones. "It's all right," she whispered to Christopher, noticing his worried expression. "Go sit down. It's your night." Before the main courses were served, the guests began to present their gifts to Christopher. Vivian gifted her brother with a Mont Blanc pen engraved with his initials. Their father offered an Italian leather briefcase for documents. Colleagues from work brought bottles of rare wine and designer ties. When it was Sunny's turn, she stood up shyly and walked over to Christopher, handing him a package wrapped in handmade, colourful paper. "Happy birthday, my love," she said, giving him a hug and a quick kiss. Christopher carefully unwrapped the present, revealing the hand-knitted sweater. It was a burst of colours, blues that reminded him of the ocean where they had their first kiss, greens of the forest where they went camping, yellows from the wildflowers of the field where he proposed, and red details that represented their love. "It's beautiful, Sunny," said Christopher, his eyes shining with genuine emotion. Immediately, he removed his blazer and put on the sweater over his dress shirt. "I'll wear it right now." There was an exchange of glances among the guests, looks that Sunny immediately caught, disapproval, embarrassment, pity directed at Christopher. "I'll just head to the restroom quickly," Sunny announced, needing a moment to compose herself. As he walked away, he heard Vivian say, "Chris, please take off that ridiculous sweater. Your wife is so clueless about good taste. She's embarrassing. Look how much attention she draws. Couldn't you have found someone more sophisticated, someone at our level?" Laughter followed the comment. Sunny, who had stopped in the hallway upon hearing her name, felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned on her heels and headed toward the restaurant's exit. Christopher, who had kept a frozen smile during his sister's comment, saw out of the corner of his eye his wife walking away. When he realized she was crying, a wave of anger and clarity hit him. "Sonny!" he called, standing up abruptly. "Wait." Everyone at the table turned, surprised by his reaction. "Christopher, she's just being dramatic as usual," commented Caroline with an exasperated sigh. "Sit back down. Dinner is just beginning." Christopher looked at the table, his impeccably dressed family, his colleagues with polite smiles, all waiting for him to ignore his wife's emotional exit and continue the social ritual as if nothing had happened. For the first time, he saw with absolute clarity the contrast between these two worlds. On one side, people who measured every word, every gesture, concerned with appearances and status. On the other, Sonny, imperfect, emotional, authentic, who had brought genuine colour and joy into his life. "No," he replied, surprising everyone. "I will not go back to sit down." Christopher quickly walked through the restaurant, finding Sonny about to exit through the main door. "Sonny, wait," he pleaded, gently holding her arm. "Please." "Christopher, I'm sorry for embarrassing you," she said, her voice choked with tears. "Go back to your birthday, but I won't go back there." "I didn't come here to convince you to go back there," he replied, holding her hands. "I came so we could leave. Together." Sonny looked at him, confused. "I no longer belong to that world," Christopher continued, his voice firm and clear. "My heart now belongs to someone much more fun, beautiful, and who has brought so many new colours into my life that I never tire of admiring them. You are now my family, my home." "But it's your birthday, your family." "My birthday is the perfect day to celebrate what really matters," he interrupted, "and what matters is you, us. This colourful and imperfect life we've built together." He wiped a tear from her face with his thumb. "What do you think about going home, ordering a pizza and celebrating our way? We can even hang those lights in the backyard that you wanted so much." Sonny smiled through the tears, nodding. When they left the restaurant hand in hand, Christopher still wearing the colourful sweater, they felt light. Behind them they left behind murmurs of disapproval and judgment. Ahead awaited a house full of colours, laughter, and the freedom to be exactly who they were. And for Christopher, there could be no better birthday present than that. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.